there is a man named John, 52 years old, salt in his hair, coffee always in his hand, the kind of person you walk past in a grocery store and feel absolutely nothing about. Nothing about him screams money. His car is not the newest model. His watch is not the loudest thing in the room. He does not talk about investments at dinner parties. He does not have a financial advisor you would find on the cover of Forbes magazine. John earns $94,000 a year. He has never made a budget in his life, not once. He could not tell you what he spent on groceries last week, let alone break down last Tuesday by the dollar. He has never downloaded a tracking app. He has never color-coded a spreadsheet. He has never sat down on a Sunday night to review his finances the way all the Instagram money gurus tell you to. And yet John has $840,000 saved. Now let me introduce you to Diana. Diana is 34, sharp, driven, meticulous. She earns $112,000 a year, more than John has ever seen in his life. Diana has 3 budgeting apps on her phone. 3. She tracks every subscription, every coffee, every dollar. She has categories, subcategories, color tags, alerts when she is approaching a spending limit. She wakes up every morning with a financial plan. Diana has $4,000 to her name. Same country, same economy, same rising inflation choking everyone from both ends. And yet, the gap between these two people is not a small one. It is not a rounding error. It is the difference between freedom and a slow, quiet, spreadsheet-organized panic attack every single month. Now here is the question that should be pulling at you right now. What is actually happening here? Because if your instinct is to say, well, John must have had help, or Diana must be hiding something, or the numbers must be wrong, I need you to sit with that instinct for a second. That instinct is the exact same thing that has kept millions of people stuck. The refusal to believe that something this simple could be the real answer. The answer is not income. It is not discipline in the way most people think about discipline. It is not a hot stock tip, not a secret high-yield investment, not a side hustle nobody else has discovered. The answer is a single decision that both of them make, or fail to make, in the 60 seconds after their paycheck lands in their account. Just 60 seconds. And almost nobody does it correctly. Let us talk about what actually happens on payday, because most people have never stopped to examine it honestly. For the majority of people, payday is experienced as a finish line. The alert pops up on your phone, the balance bumps, and somewhere in your chest, a quiet relief washes in. You exhale. For a moment, sometimes just a moment, you feel like you are okay. That feeling is the trap, because the instant that money hits your checking account, something psychological happens that nobody warns you about. The money stops feeling like a tool and starts feeling like permission. Permission to breathe. Permission to live. Permission to finally get the thing you have been putting off all month. And that permission bleeds into every decision you make from that moment until the account runs dry again. This is not a character flaw. This is neuroscience. Your brain sees available resources and interprets them as safe to use. That is an ancient survival mechanism. It was never designed for a world of recurring bills, interest rates, and a retirement you have to fund yourself from scratch. And the numbers make the damage clear. 68% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That alone sounds tragic, but it is the next number that should genuinely stop you cold. 44% of workers earning more than $100,000 a year say they have little or nothing left at the end of the month. Nearly half of six-figure earners. Read that slowly. These are people earning more in a year than most of the world sees in a decade, and they are running on fumes by the 28th. This is not a poverty story. This is not even really a money story. This is a routing story. The money is arriving. It is simply leaving through the wrong door, in the wrong order, before it was ever told where to go. And like water following the path of least resistance, it flows directly toward whatever wants it most, which is almost never your future. Watch what happens inside one specific payday and trace each dollar like it carries a GPS signal. John takes home about $5,400 a month after taxes. Diana takes home about $6,300. By pure math, Diana wins every month. She has $900 more landing in her account than John does. If wealth was simply a race of income, she laps him before he even gets out of his chair. But here is what happens in the 60 seconds after each deposit hits. Diana opens her banking app. The number is high. It always looks good on payday. She mentally runs through the bills she knows are coming: rent, the car payment, the credit card minimum, and files them somewhere in the back of her mind. Then she lives. She spends freely from the top of the account all month long, buying things she needs and things she wants and things she does not even particularly enjoy, but that feel justified because the account had room for them. And whatever happens to survive until the next payday, she calls savings. Some months, that is $300. Some months, it is nothing. Some months, it is below nothing, and the credit card quietly swells. Now watch John. The moment John's paycheck lands, money starts moving automatically, before he is even awake, before his coffee brews, before his brain has registered the deposit notification. A fixed amount has already left for his retirement account. Another fixed amount has moved to his emergency fund. Another goes to his long-term investments. By the time John looks at his checking account, the number he sees is already the number he is permitted to spend, not the full amount. The remainder, the leftovers after his future, was already fed. He is not more disciplined than Diana, not in any meaningful psychological sense. He is not resisting more temptation. He is not made of stronger stuff. He has done something far more powerful and far more permanent than discipline. He has made discipline unnecessary. His system carries the willpower while he sleeps. Those two approaches look almost identical when you describe them in one sentence each. Diana saves what is left after she spends. John spends what is left after he saves. A single word flipped. And yet those two sentences describe two completely different lives, two completely different endings. Here is what nobody tells you about willpower when they give you financial advice. Willpower is not a saving strategy. It is a tax. You pay it every single day, and unlike money, It does not replenish overnight. Every time Diana opens her banking app and sees $4,000 sitting there, she has to consciously choose not to spend it. That is one decision. Then she has to make it again at lunch, again at the checkout, again when the promotional email arrives at 11 p.m., again on a Friday when she is tired and someone suggests dinner somewhere nice. The account is full. The temptation is constant, and the human brain, as magnificent as it is, was never built to say no 200 times in a single month without breaking down at least once. Most people do not lose this fight because they are weak. They lose it because the fight never ends. John removed the fight. His savings left before his brain ever registered them as available money. And you cannot spend what you never saw. That is not a motivational poster. That is the mechanical, physiological reason why automating your savings works when every budgeting app fails. The app is a scoreboard. It tells you after the game what happened. Automation is a gate. It changes the game before you even step onto the field. The fix is one setting. You log into your bank. You schedule an automatic transfer for the exact same day your paycheck arrives, not the end of the month, not when you get around to it, not after you see how the month goes. The same day, the money moves into savings and investments before it ever touches the part of your brain that wants things. Most people try to save with their willpower. The quietly wealthy save with their calendar. Let me show you what that calendar does over time, because the gap between these two approaches grows into something almost incomprehensible if you give it enough time. John started automating $800 a month into investments when he was 32. That is not a heroic number. It is less than what most people spend on a car payment they chose for the prestige of it. He never increased it dramatically. He never had a brilliant stock-picking moment. He simply never turned it off. At a long-run average market return, those automatic transfers compounded quietly over 2 decades into the bulk of his $840,000. He did not outsmart the market. He did not have insider knowledge. He simply moved money first every payday for 20 years and let compounding do what no amount of human willpower ever could. It worked in silence, in the background, every single day, even when he was not paying attention. Now look at Diana's version of the same 20 years. She saved on and off the entire time. The problem, the silent, devastating problem, is that phrase, on and off. She saves $300 one month, feeling virtuous, feeling responsible. Then an unexpected expense hits and she raids it. Then she starts over, then stops, then starts again. Her money never gets to sit long enough to compound, and compounding is brutally, unapologetically indifferent to size. It does not care how much you put in. It cares only about one thing: how consistently you leave it alone. A small amount that never stops growing will always beat a large amount that keeps restarting. That is not philosophy. That is arithmetic. And automation is the only mechanism that makes ordinary humans consistent enough to win that arithmetic game. Now here is the money that most people walk directly past without ever realizing it was there. If your employer offers a retirement match, They are handing you a raise that you have to physically reach out and claim. And an almost incomprehensible number of people never claim it. Here is how it works. You contribute a percentage of your pay into your retirement account, and your employer puts in money on top of it, for free, just for participating. A common structure is your employer matching 50 cents or a full dollar for every dollar you put in, up to a certain limit. That is an instant 50 to 100% return on your money before it is invested in a single thing. There is nowhere else on earth that offers you that. And yet, 1 in 4 workers fails to contribute enough to capture the full match. Sit with that. 25% of people are leaving free money on the table every single paycheck. Across the country, that adds up to approximately $24 billion in unclaimed employer matches every year. The average worker who misses the full match leaves around $1,336 behind annually. Over 20 years with growth, that missed match alone compounds into over $40,000. A car, a year of retirement, walked past on every payday simply because nobody told them to reach out and grab it first. And the cruelest part is who gets hurt the most. 42% of workers earning under $40,000 miss the full match. Workers under 30 are twice as likely to miss it as workers over 60. The youngest, the lowest earning, the people with the most time for compounding to work in their favor, those are the exact people most often leaving this free money behind. So the very first move on payday is not to pay a bill. It is to capture every single cent of your employer match before the money even has a name. There is someone else in this story. Her name is Carla. Carla is 32. She earns $68,000. 3 years ago, she was contributing $0 to her retirement account, even though her employer offered a dollar-for-dollar match up to 5% of her salary. That was $3,400 of free money she was walking past every single year. She told herself she could not afford to contribute. She told herself she would start when things settled down, when the timing was better, when she had more room. The truth was the opposite. She could not afford not to. The day she finally copied John's system, she turned on a 5% contribution and captured the full match. Overnight, her effective savings rate did not rise to 5%. It rose to 10% because her employer matched every cent. She found money she did not know she had simply by reaching out and taking what was always being offered. She spent 2 years before that moment calling herself responsible. What she was actually doing was leaving the most expensive habit she owned sitting right there on the table, walking past it every 14 days and wondering why she never seemed to get ahead. Now there is someone else, and he is the cautionary tale of effort without architecture. Mark is 30. He earns $60,000. Mark has tried everything, 6 different budgeting apps in 2 years, color-coded categories, beautiful monthly plans built on fresh spreadsheets with fresh optimism. Mark is not lazy. Mark is not careless. Mark is trying harder than almost anyone in this story. And Mark has nothing saved, because every single system Mark builds depends on one thing: him deciding in the moment, with money already in his hand, to not spend it. The apps track the damage after it is done. They tell him on Saturday that he overspent on Friday. They never stopped him on Friday. They are scoreboards reporting the final score when the game is already over. Mark does not need more information about his behavior. He needs the money gone before his behavior ever gets a chance to act on it. The day Mark finally set up one automatic transfer, one on payday, before he could see the money, he did more for his financial future in that single evening than 2 years of apps, spreadsheets, and color-coded shame had accomplished combined. Because automation does not depend on Mark being strong on a Friday night when he is exhausted and the world feels heavy. It moves the money while he sleeps. It doesn't care what kind of day he had. Here is the order that feels backward but actually changes everything. Most people who get serious about money attack their debt first. High-interest debt, especially. It feels responsible. It feels like you are fighting the monster. And they are mostly right, except for one move that has to come before it. You capture your employer match before you throw extra money at high-interest debt. The first time you hear this, it sounds insane. How can saving for retirement come before paying off a credit card charging 24%? Here is the math that breaks the intuition open. A dollar-for-dollar match is an instant 100% return. Paying off a credit card at 24% saves you 24%. 100 beats 24. Even a 50-cent match is an instant 50% return, which still beats nearly any interest rate you will ever carry in your entire life. So the order is precise. It has a logic to it that feels almost surgical once you see it. First, contribute exactly enough to capture the full employer match, not a dollar more yet. Second, turn every remaining dollar of firepower onto high-interest debt. Credit cards, payday loans, anything above roughly 10% interest. That debt is a fire. It burns faster than almost anything can grow. You do not invest around a fire. You put it out. Third, build the wall. The emergency fund is not exciting. Nobody brags about it at dinner, but it is the structure that keeps everything else from collapsing the first time life does what it always does, shows up uninvited and breaks something expensive. 59% of Americans do not have enough saved to cover a single $1,000 emergency. Nearly half have no emergency fund at all. So when the car dies, when the medical bill arrives, when the job disappears, they reach for the only tool left available to them, the credit card. And just like that, they are back in the fire they may have just finished putting out. John keeps 6 months of expenses in cash. That money has never made him rich. It has done something more valuable than wealth in the conventional sense. It has kept him from ever going backwards. It has absorbed every shock, every surprise, every crisis that would have otherwise sent him back to zero. Diana has no wall. Every unexpected expense becomes new debt. Every year, she runs in place because the ground beneath her keeps giving way. And here is the detail that matters more than most people realize. Where you keep that emergency fund changes everything. Not in your checking account, where it bleeds invisibly into everyday spending. Not somewhere you can tap with 2 clicks when the temptation is convincing. A separate high-yield savings account, ideally at a different bank from your checking. Money that earns a real return for simply sitting there. Money protected by friction, by distance, by the slight inconvenience of having to actually try to reach it. Diana's so-called savings lived in the same account she spent from. It was never savings. It was just spending she had not done yet. Once the match is captured, once the high-interest debt is ash, once the emergency wall is standing, the next dollars go somewhere almost nobody talks about, but the quietly wealthy fund without exception. Tax-advantaged retirement accounts, Roth accounts, where money grows and leaves your hands completely free of tax when you pull it out in retirement. Health savings accounts, where money goes in untaxed, grows untaxed, and comes out untaxed for medical costs. The closest thing to legal alchemy the tax code has ever produced. John has been quietly maxing these for 2 decades. No announcements, no posts about his net worth. He simply routed money into them on every payday, automatically, and let 30 years of compounding do the work he never had to do consciously. Over 3 decades, the difference between paying tax every year along the way versus paying it only once or never can mean hundreds of thousands of extra dollars sitting in the same person's account for the exact same contributions. John did not earn more than Diana to build that gap. He let the right accounts carry the weight in silence while she paid full price on everything she touched. Now, here is the trap that grows with your income. It is the reason Diana earns more than John and has less. It has a name: lifestyle creep. And it is the most socially acceptable wealth destroyer in existence. Here is how it works every single time. You get a raise. The raise feels like relief, like reward, like proof that you are doing the right things. So your life quietly expands to meet the new number. A nicer apartment, a better car, the upgraded everything. Within a few months, the raise is fully absorbed. You feel exactly as stretched as you did before, just with more expensive problems. John did something different. Every time John got a raise, most of it moved automatically into his transfers before his lifestyle ever sensed it was there. He let his income grow and refused to let his spending follow. He built the gap intentionally, invisibly, and without drama. A raise is not money. A raise is a fork in the road. One path automates it before you feel it. The other path lets it dissolve into a slightly more expensive life you will barely remember in 10 years. Let us put one number on the whole system, because there is one. The target is to route approximately 25% of your gross income toward your future on every payday before you spend a cent of the rest. That is the savings rate the math consistently rewards across the research. It sounds steep. You do not start there. Maya is 28. She just landed her first real job at $52,000. She starts at the match, maybe 6%. Every time she gets a raise, she adds 1 percentage point to her automatic transfer before the new income ever touches her lifestyle. She never feels the squeeze because she is always redirecting money that never felt like hers to begin with. Within a few years, she is at 15, then 20, then beyond, and her lifestyle has not shrunk. It simply did not expand as fast as her income did. The gap between those two lines is the exact shape of her future. Carla climbed from 8% to 19% in 3 years and barely noticed because she only ever raised it on raise days, when the new income never had a chance to feel normal before it was already assigned a purpose. Here is the final number, the one that should make everything real. Diana has earned more than John for most of her career. Over 15 years, the extra income she brought in adds up to well over $100,000 more than John ever made. 100,000 extra dollars flowing through her life. She has $4,000 to show for it. John, earning less every year, quietly, automatically, in the right order, has $840,000. Diana did not lose that money in a crash. No villain stole it. No bad decision destroyed it all at once. It simply leaked out, slowly, invisibly, a little every payday through an account she spent from before she ever saved from. 15 years of higher income routed in the wrong order produced less, dramatically, heartbreakingly less, than 15 years of lower income routed in the right one. If you have ever needed proof that the sequence matters more than the size, that is it. Printed in 2 lives, standing right next to each other. So here is the truth underneath all of it, the thing this entire story has been quietly building toward. The best financial advice you will ever hear is not to save more. It is not to earn more. It is not to cut your coffee or download another app you will abandon in 9 days or follow some 5-step plan that assumes you are a rational actor making calm decisions in a world that never stops pulling at you. The best financial advice is this: change the order your money moves. That is it. That is the whole secret, hiding in plain sight under decades of complicated financial advice designed to make simple things feel exclusive. Diana is not behind because she earned too little. She is behind because her money was never told where to go before she could feel it land. John is not ahead because he earned more or tried harder or is smarter. He is ahead because his money is told where to go before his brain registers it as available. You do not have a spending problem. You have an order problem, and an order problem has a one-evening fix. Tonight, you open your bank. You set one automatic transfer for the day you get paid. You set your retirement contribution to capture every cent of your employer match. And from that night forward, you become the person whose money works before they are even awake. You become the person who has never seen that money, and therefore never missed it, and therefore never spent it, and therefore let it compound in silence for years until one day the number in the account is something that does not feel real. That is how ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. Not through genius, not through luck, not through some secret the wealthy hide from the rest of us. Through sequence, through automation, through the decision made once while it still stings a little to feed your future before the world gets its hands on your present. Most people will hear this, feel it land somewhere honest inside them, and change nothing. The window of discomfort will close, the feeling will pass, the old routine will reclaim the next payday. The ones who win are the ones who open the bank app tonight, while the feeling is still alive and move the money first. What happens in the 60 seconds after you get paid? That answer, not your income, not your IQ, not your luck, not your discipline, is the single thing that decides which life you build. Do this when you get paid. Pay yourself first, automatically, in the right order, before you ever see the money. Because the money you never see is the money you never miss. And the money you never miss is the money that, given enough time and left alone, quietly becomes everything.